All right, so this is going to be roughly chapters 1 and 3-ish. Your IST 108 textbook. There's going to be some extra stuff in here, some, me expanding on some other stuff, those types of things. So, Windows 10 is what this class is all about. Now, this is the newest version of Windows, and it's been around for a few years now. Man, I don't even know how long ago it came out. But anyway, it's been around for a while, and it's supposedly going to stay around. All right, this is supposedly the end-all version of Windows that they're not going to be producing anymore. They're just going to keep updating this version. I'll believe that when I see it, but you never know. All right. Now, many of you have used Windows probably for your lifetime, like me. All right. I started a long time ago with probably like Windows 95, but didn't really start using computers really until 2000 or whatever time that would be. I'm not actually sure what first version of Windows I used was, but thereabouts. Anyway, let's get this party started. So at the bottom of our screen, down there, we have the taskbar. All right, so everything below, oh, that's a horrible line. Let's try this again. Everything below, come on, there we go. This line is basically our taskbar. Now, taskbar is broken down to kind of multiple sections, so let's start over here on the right. We have our notification section. So, on the far right is notifications. If you have apps or things that will do pop-ups or notify you, like Outlook, they will show up in here. And you'll see that little flag turned white and maybe have a number in it or something along those lines. And at the bottom here, we have some quick settings that will make your life a bit easier. So you have Wi-Fi, I have Bluetooth, all sorts of stuff related to that. We'll kind of come back and talk a little bit more about this later, some of the specific options in there. Next, we have clock, obviously, and you can pick what you like there, whether you want the date, just the time, if you want military time, non-military, whatever your choice is. I normally prefer military, although this is not actually set for that, which saddens me. Next is your actual notification icons. Now, if we look closely at mine, I actually have one notification icon that is showing all the time, and that is my volume on this computer. I don't normally need that many notifications showing, or those silly icons. And I do have a lot of them. More than I care to admit at this point, actually. This computer, in my opinion, is about ready to be reinstalled. Just completely wipe my operating system disk and do a nice clean install, which gets through all of that spam and other crap that I've installed over the years that I don't actually ever use. So we're getting to that point. But anyway, you can see all of the different icons showing down there. So if you were to click on one, we could look at OBS, which just a little icon for that, which we'll bring that up. And a little red dot there showing that we're actually recording right now. Next, we have our pinned icons and open programs. So that's what all of those icons are. For those of you, many of you will be familiar with a lot of these apps. So we would have OBS, Epic Pen, probably not one of those you guys are familiar with. Hopefully everyone's familiar with the word icon, Spotify, Snipping Tool, Putty, which many of you will probably become familiar with as your time here at HCC if you're not already. Outlook, Notepad++, another program that some of you will probably become familiar with over time, Chrome, and then File Explorer. Now, if we look at the very bottom here, we see a little white line. I can't draw over it, but anyway, that little white line is signifying that that program is actually open right now. Compared to, so Spotify is open, compared to the Snipping Tool is not. So the snipping tool is actually what's called pinned down here. It stays down there even when the program is not open. And that is kind of your personal choice, whether you want icons there or not. What I've pinned, I believe, is up to this point. So those are the programs that I use super frequently. And I should pin Spotify, except for it just never closes. So that's why I don't have it pinned there, is my best guess. Anyway. Next, we have this little icon, which we will come back to in a little bit. We have our search bar, and then we have our start button. All right. This start button is where we move into the next topic, which is your start menu. Your start menu, which I can't draw on. Sorry about that. Actually, can I do it this way? No. Anyway. Your start menu is kind of divided into three sections. You've got your kind of settings and other, shortcuts over here for documents and pictures and power and account information. We have all of our apps that are installed that are in the start menu, so you can scroll through that. And as as the book puts it, this is kind of a hidden scroll bar, which is on both of them actually. Notice I put my mouse over that for a little bit, then it can become solid enough for me to grab, otherwise it does not exist in there. And then we have our pinned tabs, and Windows 10 has gone to live tiles, they call it for some of these. So if you look at my photos, you might see that picture change. Oh, there it goes. Because that is pulling, it's a live tile, it's interactive, so it's actually showing you different information. You can get a weather tile and things like that. So you have some options there. Basically, all of my tiles over here are not live though. They are just static icons because I don't use that many modern apps is what Windows 10 calls them. Next, well actually let's come back to that one in a little bit. So some of the shortcuts that I actually use the most frequently is Alt-Tab. So if I hold Alt and hit the Tab button once, you'll see all of the open documents on my computer open up. All right. Well, the forgotten password wizard actually is up. That's good. So all of the different options there are showing there. So Alt-Tab, and now I'm holding Alt still. As soon as I let go of Alt, it will then go to that wherever that white box is. So you see a white box, you're on Epic Pen display. So let's go to Spotify. Is that gonna? Nope, that's not in my main screen. Anyway, let's bring Spotify to my main screen. So does I have anything? Anyway, you can kind of just tab around and jump back and forth between programs really easily. And it makes your life easier. Now see, Spotify's gone. I tab to it. Now it pops back up. So Alt-Tab, that was kind of the old school way of doing things. Windows has come up with a newer option called Windows Tab, or that little Windows logo on your keyboard that's right next to the left Alt. So if you hold that and hit Tab, you can actually let go. And now it's actually showing you just what was on my current screen, because I have two monitors set up. You guys can't see my other monitor right now. I'll fix that in a second. But anyway, you see what's on my main screen. It's actually also showing you earlier today what I had open. So here we had some Word documents, some PDFs, some Inkscape related stuff. So it's actually showing you like past things that you had open that might be interesting to you. If I go ahead, I think this is going to grab it. Let's go. One screen. There we go. Coming back to this. So these are all sorts of different shortcuts that you might use. And depending on the computer you're using, there might be some different options here. You might also just see that. All right. I like the expanded version. Just like if you go into my task manager, which we'll come back to, I always go the expanded version. I think it's a better option for what I'm going to call power users, and even for non-power users for the task manager. But anyway, notice tablet mode for me is grayed out. I am on a desktop computer. I don't have a touch screen, there's just no option for me for tablet mode. I think if I had a touchscreen on my desktop, it would still be an option, but I don't. If you are on a device that has a touchscreen, I suggest you enable it and see what it does. It kind of changes your taskbar at the bottom. It definitely changes your start menu. Kind of takes you back to more like Windows 8 vibe for the start menu. But supposedly it's easier to use your 10 digits to select things. They've made buttons bigger and icons bigger and those types of things. So if you're using your tablet in touch mode, that might be a worthy thing to use. You got a connect option, which if you're trying to connect to a wireless display or audio device. There's all sorts of different things in here, but I really want to touch on that tablet mode. Network is another good one, but you can also get to that via the notification network icon if you have that enabled. There we go. You can see all my wonderful networks around here. We have nightlight, which I think oranges the screen instead of it being blue. It takes that blue away, which is supposedly bad for the eyes. VPN stuff, you're using projectors. Airplane mode, if you're going to get on an airplane with your laptop, it's a great one. Same with mobile hotspot. So lots of good shortcuts there for you in the long run. So keyboard shortcuts. We already talked about Alt Tab and Windows Tab. All right. There are all sorts of Windows shortcuts out there. Hopefully you all know Control C, Control V, Control X for copy, cut, and paste. All right. And there's all sorts of Windows-specific ones. Like if you want to open File Explorer, that would be Windows and E, and that opens up the File Explorer menu. Now, File Explorer is where you go to explore all the different files that are on your computer. When you first open it, it takes you to the Quick Access screen. Now, that is a good option. All right, you'll notice that we're on Quick Access, and all of these folders. Hey, I can use my pen again. All of these folders here are the same folders over here. All right, so they are all exactly the same. And you can pin stuff here, so that's why you see the little pin icons. Let's see again, let me circle those. Whoop, that little pin right there. All right, so you can pin stuff to this, and I have purposely pinned all of these to my Quick Access. Those are the folders that I use the most frequently right now. And this is constantly changing, so month to month, day to day, you could be like, oh, I don't use this Quick Access folder anymore, and you get rid of it. I also heavily use these two, the downloads and documents. Desktop, not so much. Pictures and videos, not so much. But I leave them there once in a while. I still use them, and my Quick Access hasn't become exceedingly long. Now, what has come exceedingly long is this PC if I leave it open. Man, oh man. At the bottom, you have some other shortcuts that you might use. External hard drives, this PC. This is, again, probably one of the most important ones, is this PC. All right. So here you see some of your folders at the top. You have your devices and drivers, so you can see all of the different hard drives that I have on my computer. So I have my local disk, which is my SSD. I have 2 hard drives for storing data locally on this machine. And then I also have an external USB drive for backing my data up to a USB in case one of my hard drives fails. And then also over here we have my network drive, which is a server I have running that has 4 terabytes of hard drive space for also backing up. So all of my important data is backed up in 3 locations. Now those 3 locations are all within 6 feet of each other, so that is not really a good backup solution. Really, this network solution is kind of worthless overall, because the likelihood of both these hard drives and this one failing at the same time is pretty minimal. But having this NAS here for me to back files up to and whatnot also has some other purposes, like streaming my videos and things like that. So there is a purpose behind having that, but it's not truly necessary for my backup scheme. For a good backup, you really want to have an on-site backup as well as an off-site backup. And of all of my pictures and videos and those, well, my pictures are backed up off-site using Google Photos, which I did for free. It downsizes the image quality. I have no clue what Google's doing with those pictures in the background, but I'm using them for my free photo backup storage. There's nothing in any of those pictures that I'm not worried about getting off into the real world. So Google Photos is my photo backup. My music and my movies, if I lose them, it will suck, but it's not like I'm losing my memories like the pictures. So, and then for normal document data, for backing up, I'm using Google Drive. All right. As a student with your student email address, you all have access to OneDrive, which I highly suggest you use. I think you actually have like 1 terabyte of OneDrive storage, if I remember correctly, as a student, which is, I mean, a lot of data. I mean, you can see my media drive here, which is all of my movies, music, videos, pictures, those types of things. 162 gigs free is about 931. So I have more space in that, if it is 1 terabyte for one drive as a student, than I ever will actually use on my, well, what I'm currently using on my hard drive. Maybe not ever. I'm always taking more pictures. So just something to think about. But, you know, really you want 3 backups. 1 local, 1 network, and then the current one that you're working on. So just kind of a quick side note there. Now, also from this PC, you have to do it from this PC. You can't do it from quick access. All right. But if you go to this PC and you right click on anywhere that's not an icon and go to properties, this will tell you all sorts of information about your computer. All right. So not only is it telling us our processor and our RAM, all right, which are all both very interesting pieces of fact here. It does at the top, it tells me that I'm running Windows 10 Education, so it's the specific version of Windows that we're using. And I think there's like 8 or 10 of those, I don't remember, there's a bunch of them. Page 14 or 15 in your textbook has a list of the different versions of Windows 10 there are, and there are a lot of them. It tells you the operating system type, so we are running a 64-bit version of Windows 10 here. The other option is 32. Now, once you get above 4 gigabytes of RAM, and as you can see, well, probably not great see, but as you saw right there, I am running 16 in my computer. All right, so anything above 4, you have to go to the 64 version of the operating system. And that's just because of how binary and everything else works. So above 4 gigabytes of RAM, you need to be running the 64-bit. There's not a whole lot of downsides, from my understanding, if you have only 4 gigs of RAM and you're still running a 64-bit version of the operating system. It might be just a tad slower, but nothing that's going to break the bank that you're probably going to realize. So truly though, if you're running 4 gigs of RAM or less, you should be running 32-bit, but the world is going to 64. Even cell phones are starting to have more than 4 gigabytes of RAM. So 64-bit is kind of the standard at this point. And then we have all sorts of other information about my computer and things like that. So that's where you can come for some information about the Windows version you're using. And I highly suggest you come in here and look and see what you have. Many of you probably this will say home, especially if you bought your computer from Best Buy or Amazon or something like that. So I have the education version, which my old school, that's where I installed this with, gave us all copies of Windows 10, so that's why it's the education copy. You also might see Enterprise if you're on a campus computer or business computer, it might say Enterprise there. And all of the different versions just give you different capabilities depending on what the Windows determined should be in each of those. It's kind of like buying a car. It's like, well, I want heated seats. Well, if you want heated seats, you got to buy the premium version of the car. You can't buy the base model. All right. So a little bit of give and take there. Now, going back to our taskbar at the bottom of the screen, let's go ahead and clear that. We have a search window. And this is almost just encouraging laziness in my opinion. It's not really encouraging you to know where things are, all right? But there is a search bar here, and you can type things into the search bar. So what can I help with you? And this, it would be Cortana, all right? This is Microsoft's AI that is here to help you do things just like OK Google or Siri or Bixby, whatever it is.
On the website livewire.com, they say...
There goes my... All right, now that I'm back because Google started talking. So we do have a search here, and you can search for files. So if I search for IMG, it'll bring up images. If you have a specific program you're looking for, like this Epic Pen that I'm using, if I start typing that, it will go through your program list. Very rarely do I actually click on the Start menu and scroll through my program list, because either everything I'm using is either already over here on my pinned locations, or I'm using it so rarely that I don't pin it, but I just do a search for it. And most frequently, what I come here for and I search for is commands, so CMD. That is probably my most frequent search in the Windows box. But it obviously looks for stuff that's best match as other apps that might be installed on your computer or GitHub or those types of things. So just something to be aware of. But that search bar has become very, very powerful in the long run. And whether you click here or you click on the Start menu, you can just start typing search. All right, if I'm on the desktop and I just start typing, it's just jumping around icons. But if I click on the Start menu, you'll notice that there is already a pointer blinking where it says type here to search. So you can very easily just start searching for things. So it's like for Word, Here's the Word program. Here's some documents that are with Word. Here's another WordPad. I don't know why WordPad is installed on my computer, but it is. But that search has become kind of very powerful. Now, many of you who are coming from older operating versions of Windows, I don't remember when the transition was made. I think it was 10, but it might not have. It might have been 8. We now have a new settings window, and that would be Windows and I will bring up Windows settings. All right. This is supposed to be basically the new control panel. All right. Now, they have not migrated everything over to this yet. All right. So if we go ahead and go search for Windows for control panel. All right. You still have that. Oh, not what I wanted. We still have that. Let me pin this. There we go. You can still, open up control panel and do whatever it is that you need to be done. I know we're missing kind of half my icons because of my wonderful picture, but you can still open that control panel up. I suggest you try to do what you can via Windows settings first. I think that's probably the better option, to use the newer version and get yourself kind of used to this, but doesn't mean that you absolutely have to. One of those things that you might need to do is the ease of access stuff. So if we go in here, we have stuff for, let's see, change the size of text. We want to go bigger with screen text. Everything's changing and reopening now because I've changed that. With my resolution, I don't need to. Depending on the resolution of your monitor, you might need to do that. You can change brightness. You can change audio. So over here on the left, we have all the different stuff for ease of access. So if you want to do high contrast, this is always fun. Oh man, didn't realize it was going to do this. Boom. Yeah, that one normally messes with people. That is kind of a fun little trick to play with on people if you ever really are bored, is to turn high contrast mode on their computer. I remember someone did that in the Mac lab when I was in college, and the teacher couldn't figure out how to get it off, and man, that was kind of a fun one. But you also have a magnifier, which actually I will use sometimes in my classes. I will have the magnifier on, so that way I can zoom in on something on the screen. So it's not just for people who can't, see the text. There's other purposes for these things. We've got narrators, we've got audio-related stuff, we've got speech-related things. All right. So talk instead of type, so you can dictate to Windows now. And actually, you've been able to dictate to Windows for a while now. Might not have been the best, but it was always been an option. So a little bit of give and take there. So we have ease of access. You have you have account-related things. Now, I need to come back and blur some of this out. But anyway, Windows accounts. There's actually 3 different kind of account types that you can have, as far as I'm concerned. You have a local account, which is what many of you are used to using. Windows is trying to eliminate those, as far as I'm concerned, and it kind of annoys me. I recently installed Windows on a computer, and I had already connected to the Wi-Fi, and it would not let me create a local account. It required me to use a Microsoft account when I was setting up Windows. The only way to bypass that at this point, from my understanding, is to not be connected to the Wi-Fi when you start your Windows computer. Now, after the fact, you can create a new local account that's not a Microsoft account, and then delete the Microsoft account. But that's it's in a few extra steps of the process, and it takes more time. I'm like, why are we doing this, Windows? But they're pushing for that. And there are some safety things like that. Like if you forget your password or those types of things, you can come back and, you can go on their website and reset your password supposedly, and that resets the password on the computer or something along those lines. And it syncs stuff between different accounts. So if you have multiple computers, your settings and whatnot may sync between those multiple computers. But anyway, I'm a big fan of local accounts. When I can avoid using internet, having to use the internet, I like to avoid that. I like to do things on my local computer. So we have the local account, we have the link to Microsoft accounts, and then you have the network, as I'm going to call them, accounts, where you're a large company and you log into a computer, just like HCC as a student. You log in with the same username and password no matter what computer and campus you touch, or your email, same password. So that's going to be the network-based account. So a little bit of give and take there. So there are lots of options when it comes to settings here. Now, Windows Update. We don't need this over here. Anyway, Windows Update. As you can see, I actually have a pending install right now. I have not gotten to, and after this video, I will get to that. Windows also kind of started forcing updates. It's not like an option where you can turn on Windows updates. You can pause it for like a week or something, but you can't truly disable it, which is kind of annoying. There's a little trick to walk around that to say that you're on a metered connection. So like you're using your cell phone for your data plan right now. If you tell Windows that, it won't do updates over that. So that's kind of the brute force way to stop it, but it's not really the best option there. So those types of things. We've talked about Windows command very briefly. All right, as I said, that's probably what I type in the most is CMD down here. Now, again, command is from the yonder days of Windows. All right, the new version is PowerShell. All right, and as you can see, it looks a lot alike. I think you guys can see. Let's check that to make sure. Yeah. All right, it looks a lot alike. If we were to zoom in, you would notice that it's both are using c:/user/Greg Betts on both of these. This one says PowerShell, this one says command prompt. That's about the biggest difference. They do have some slight changes here. If I do an ls on the left and ls on the right, notice ls is actually a legitimate command, which is a list, basically, the documents in the folder that we're in. So where in command that wasn't so. All right, so ls, Linux, kind of a Linux command. But anyway, PowerShell is the new command prompt. We'll probably end up talking about both of these later this semester, and I do see that command prompt is probably going to be replaced in the not too distant future, but something to think about. All right, system restore. This is something that I actually highly suggest that you all make sure you have enabled. So under Windows, it was create a restore point was what the application was called. All right, and basically, if something screwy happens, you can take your system back in time. And depending on how much hard drive space you save for the system restore is depending on how far back in time you can go. Let's see. Let me choose a different restore point. So you can see right now, I only actually have 2 different restore points. One from the 28th, so 3 days ago, and one from the 21st, or about 10 days ago. All right, and this was a critical update, and that was a Windows module install. I don't have a lot of hard drive space dedicated to my Windows restore. I figure having one is probably all I truly need. But like when you install programs and things like that, or drivers, and all of a sudden your computer starts crashing because of that, system restore can take you back right before you install those and keep everything else the same. So all your files that you've created since that last restore point will still be there. Your software that you installed won't be. That'll get uninstalled because they assume that was the problem. But those types of things. So I highly suggest that you all make sure that you come in here and have System Restore even enabled. So normally it says disable system protection. That is enabled by default. And here you can see I'm only allowing you to use 11 gigs of my hard drive space, and I'm actually already using 9 of them. So something to think about. More space, obviously better, but there's also that kind of that game of, well, how much hard drive space do I want to use for this? And the last thing that I want to talk about is actually logging off and shutting down Windows. All right. So if we click on the Windows menu, if you want to do a shutdown, you've got sleep, shutdown, and restart. So those are our 3. But if you're like, how do I log out? There's no log out option here. All right. It's simple-ish. You got to click on the little icon that's at the top of this list, and then that gives you the sign out, which logs you off, the lock, which puts you back to the lock screen, but you're still logged in, so all your programs and everything are open. And then also they change account settings. So those are kind of the big ones. It kind of annoys me that they've separated them into 2 different groups. Like how hard would it have been lock and sign off put in here? I do understand why they put them up under the user account button, but it still annoys me. I really wish they would have put them all in the one section. I remember how long it took me originally to find that. I was really pissed off. And I was on a campus computer and I was trying to log off. I'm like, I can't log off. I can't. Where's the button? Then I saw they have a shortcut on the desktop for it. So I was like, okay, I just click that and I'll be done. But not all computers have that shortcut on the desktop. So something to think about. Also, just a fun little side note, there was a flaw in a Windows update recently where I was trying to shut my computer down, and I clicked on these and it says, those options are not available right now. I was like, what? So I actually had to make a custom script to do my log off and whatnot on my work laptop. That has been remedied, but if you ever come across that issue, I think there was a Windows update that caused it. So that's kind of my quick review. I know quick was like 20-30 minutes of Windows 10 of kind of chapters 3 and 1. Have a good one, guys.